Hi, I'm Uy Hoang. I'm a researcher by day job and Google Streetview photographer as a hobbyist. I do the things I do first and foremost to improve maps. My work in mapping Thames has probably reached about 90%. It's taken 5 years to do that. I'm a keen cyclist, and back in 2015 I was looking through Google Maps wanting to find a good place to cycle, and I realised actually they hadn't mapped quite a lot of the cycle paths that I generally use. And I thought, well, wait a second, why is that not on Google Street View? I realised at that point that Google had opened up Street View to contributions from people. And I thought, well, wait a second, I can probably contribute. Let me look into it. Google Maps is one of Google's most popular applications. Apart from Gmail, there's Google Search, I think is the top application. After that is Google Maps. Then after that is YouTube. Currently, as of November 2021, I've got almost 380 million views. When you start walking the rivers, you then discover that you can't access them because they have been cordoned off, either because they're private farmland, they're people's property, or they're private fishing rights. Rivers are a really important part of our history. Many of the river paths have been the ancient trails that our ancestors trod many years ago. Google won't accept photographs taken on private land, but that limits what you can show. Those areas then become dead spaces, really, unloved or unidentified spaces. The question is, areas around important rivers, should they be private land? Because things like the Thames are crucially important to the lives of many people downstream. I think the classic area is Canary Wharf, which is a private estate. I have taken photographs in Canary Wharf, but a lot of the photographs have been taken down. It developed in 2007 as a research project in San Francisco. Google then took that research project and it rolled it out for the first 7 years up to 2014. It didn't allow anybody apart from Google's own contractors to contribute. And that was for two reasons. One, I think, was just developing and the platform, it wanted a consistent quality across the platform, but also the technology hadn't developed for consumer 360 cameras at the time. Then I think Google really understood what it meant to open up their platform. They knew that they couldn't map the world entirely by themselves. There were places that they couldn't get to, there were trails that they didn't know of, but were important places for people. They wanted these places mapped. I think that was one of their aims, is actually, can we have a picture of every space in the world? They're nowhere near it, to be honest with you. We think that Google's mapped everything, but it hasn't. I reckon in terms of mapping the roads in the world, 40 to 50% of the way, and that's the roads. We're not talking about rivers, which are not hardly mapped at all. I mean, there's interesting examples that I've seen where a person was actually paid by the government to do panoramas of their streets and actually amassed, 1 million plus miles. There's a final sort of community which I would call the activists, and they are people who really want to get their area onto Google Maps, and Google won't do it. The best example I can tell is the one of the Faroe Islands. They came up with this idea of mounting cameras onto the backs of sheep and doing what's called sheep view, where the sheep actually mapped the entire islands. And it's a really unique thing. 360 or panoramic photography has been around almost as long as traditional photography. Some of the earliest photographers actually were the people that developed 360 photography by actually having many cameras stitched together. If you look at Google's early photography from when it first started in 2007 to 2014, and still to this day their cameras do their own stitching, so they have now 2 cameras as opposed to 8 or 16. The issue with that type of photography is that nobody has really understood what its purpose was And also nobody had really produced a platform to display that photography before. And it's only since Google Street Maps has popularized 360 photography that there has been a platform for you to display 360 photographs and an audience that consumes it. So now we are so used to 360 photography, but we don't see it as 360 photography. We say it's Google Streetview. Because it's so new as a consumer tool and now a possible art form, people don't know how to use it as an art form and how to consume it as an art form. There's a long way, I think, until 360 photography can reach the sort of levels of artistic merit that normal photography has reached. I had this very interesting discussion with a friend of mine who is an artist, and I was just contemplating what the difference is between me and her. As a bona fide artist, she, I guess, would be looking through her viewfinder at the photo that she's taking and really thinking very, very carefully about, the composition of the photo. So she'll be looking at, the aperture and the exposure and stuff like that, which is really something that I don't do. If you're walking 10 miles in a day, you might take 1,000+ photos in a photo shoot. There's no way that you can look at all of those photos. You've got to work to a technique where you can only identify photos that you think may need to review, but there's no way that you can review them all. What I'm looking at when I'm taking the photo is not the photo itself. I assume that the photo will come out well. What I'm looking at is actually where I'm going, which is a really bizarre thing to do because I'm a photographer that actually doesn't look at their photos. I'll walk along the Thames or walk along the path, but I'll be more focused on not falling into the water. I put the camera into a position where I think it will take a nice picture. The viewer then composes what they want to see. They can then zoom and pan around to any area of the photograph. I often describe it to people as the unadvertised social media platform is Maps. A 360 photograph in which you can place yourself in the centre, creating in one picture an idea of what a metaverse would be like. People like Facebook might then transition themselves to thinking more of themselves as a social media map or a social media world. I'm platform neutral. The contributor is only contributing to Google as a platform, and that's what I view myself, not as somebody that works with Google. If there was a better platform, I would be happy to contribute to that. At the moment, that platform doesn't exist. I think spaces that are less frequented, are really, really important for us to document. They can be the sites of really important changes. And I tend to photograph spaces that include a lot of water and waterways. These spaces, and a lot of them are actually on floodplains. They will be important, I think. If the water level rises, if we don't sort out climate change, these unmapped and unloved spaces will be one of probably the most vulnerable to flooding. And yet we know nothing about them. They don't appear anywhere really for us on our maps. And that's why I think it's really important that we start looking to really make people aware of these spaces. And then explore them for themselves. First virtually and then hopefully in person. They'll come to know these spaces and then hopefully come to love them and take care of them